What's happening, everybody? Good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. I am glad that you're here tonight. Obviously, we are not on the couch having a couch conversation, but this atmosphere in the kitchen is going to serve us just as well. So tonight's couch conversation is being brought to us from the kitchen because we're going to talk about value, and we're going to talk about this idea of whether or not you are enough. And we're going to talk about why this is it can be a very dangerous, conversation to have, a very dangerous concept if we're not careful. So we're going to talk about being enough, the dangers of it, and how to really approach it. So as you are checking in, let me see who is here. Dreams D, Joey Harrington, what's happening? Good to see you. Let's see, invite Mermaid Diva. Good to see you. Good to see everybody checking in. All right, so I have a couple things here that we're going to use tonight in the kitchen. I have, hey, good to see you. So I have my big mug, of course. Always got to have my big mug handy. Have another jar container. Have a 1 cup, measuring device for, being in the kitchen cooking, right? It's always good to see a man in the kitchen cooking, right? Well, I'm not actually cooking tonight. And then I have, a 1 gallon jug of water. And so when we look at all these different vessels, right? We look at these different containers. They each have a capacity, as do all of us. We all have a certain capacity. Hey, Grace, we all have a certain capacity that we can fulfill in life, right? We all have this ability to do something. And sometimes we get into this place, whether or not we've been through some rough relationships, or we've had a past that didn't work out how we wanted it to work out, things like that. We can sometimes question whether or not we are enough. Am I good enough? Am I enough? But here's the question, because when we actually look at this term, am I enough, the question itself isn't very thorough. If you ask yourself, am I enough? You're just kind of hanging there. Like, the next question that naturally comes is, enough for what? What are you questioning? Are you enough for what? Right? If I say, okay, I have this scoop, and it's a 1 cup measuring cup. This is 1 cup. Is it enough to fill up my mug that requires 64 ounces? This is a half-gallon mug. So is 1 cup, which is 8 ounces, is it enough to fill this up? So some of us might say, well, obviously, no, it's not. I would say, actually, it is. It's all in how you start looking at things in life. Is it enough? Well, is it enough to fill it up with 1 scoop and one pour? No. But is it enough if I do it 8 times? Yeah. See, if I do it 8 times, then it's going to be 64 ounces. And if this is a 64-ounce container, then it fills it up. So yeah, it is actually enough. But you can't think that you are enough if you only operate in whatever you think your capacity is. If you say, oh, I have a 1 cup capacity, so all I'm going to be able to do is do 1 cup worth. Well, then, yeah, you're going to miss out on the fact that you could actually do 2 cups. You could actually serve more and show up more in your relationship if you realize that you could take what you have and just make sure that you are filled up and poured out. It's about looking to see what can you do. Your capacity, whatever it is, 1 gallon, 1 cup, this is what, 12, 24 ounces or whatever it is. Like, they all have capacity. You have capacity, but if this 1 cup compares itself to this container, or if it compares itself to this half-gallon jug, then this 1 cup is always going to think itself lesser. And this is why, part of the reason why, sometimes it's good to get in the kitchen and cook. Because why? When you get into the kitchen and you begin cooking, what happens? Oftentimes, depending on how you cook, there's a recipe. See, there's something that is required. So some recipes call for 1 cup. And so if you are in a relationship and you've developed and you're being intentional and you're thinking about the recipe for your relationship because you want to produce a certain outcome and repeat it over and over and over again, Well, if you think about your relationship recipe, the thing that you could think of is you could say, well, what does this recipe call for? What does this situation and what does this moment call for? I see I have 1 cup capacity right here. But if I know that this recipe calls for 2 cups or 3 cups, I need to know that I got to pour out, and I'm going to have to get filled back up again so I can pour out again, so I can be filled back up again, so I can be poured out again. I might have to work and do a little bit more. Like I might have to repeat certain things over and over again. I might have to take some extra steps because I know my capacity right now is in this 1 cup level. But it's okay. Because when I learn how to understand my measurement, when I understand my capacity, then I can say I know how I operate. I just need, what I need to do is make sure I keep going back, go back, fill this up. So when I fill it up, then I pour it out. I know there's more I can do. Here, let me stick to what I'm good at. Let me go back to the well. Let me go back to the sink. Let me go back, fill up again, pour out. Relationships are about, creating a plan, creating a strategy. If we can do that, then our relationships are going to start to have some consistent results. But it's when we're only, sometimes, we don't measure, right? We just kind of pour out. And when we do that, it's okay. Sometimes we can live on the edge like that and just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. But don't expect a consistent result if you don't have a formula, if you don't have some ways of measuring your capacity and knowing what you get to bring to the table. If you don't really understand what is needed in a situation, in a relationship, understand that you probably are going to get to a point where you question whether or not you are enough. And the reason you're going to do that is because you actually haven't finished the sentence and said enough for what? See, if I fill this up, this 1 cup, if I fill this up and I pour it in my big mug, right? If I pour it in my big mug, I know that this is not enough by itself to fill it up. However, if I go into my drawer, okay, and I pull out a 1/4 teaspoon, and then I decide, well, I'm going to try to pour 1 cup into this 1/4 teaspoon. Do you know what I'm going to say about myself in that situation in a relationship? Oh, I must be too much. I'm just too much. Like I don't understand why. Like every relationship that I get in is just, I feel like I'm too much, and I'm just, overwhelming to people. I'm too much. Then you're gonna start having issues and looking at yourself or having a problem because you're too much. I'm too much. Well, it's not that you're too much. You're just in a relationship or an environment that cannot handle your capacity. See, when this is what happens when you're in a relationship with someone who's a 1/4 teaspoon and you're a cup, and you try to pour your cup into their 1/4 teaspoon, nothing is wrong with either one of you. It's just that this person, their capacity is 1/4 cup. I mean, a 1/4 teaspoon. And so you're going to be way off. You're trying to pour out. You're like, I have so much to give. There's just so much love in me. Let me just pour it out on you. And most of it, you know what's going to happen? If I poured a cup of water into this 1/4 teaspoon little scoop, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be wasted. Most of it's going to end up being wasted. And haven't we felt that way in relationships before? Where you're like, you know what? I just feel like I'm being wasted. I feel like I'm too much. And so now you start having all these issues, and now you're looking at yourself, and maybe I'm too much, and I'm being wasted, and now I'm struggling with me, my identity, my image. But it's not you. It's not them. It's just that you two don't necessarily go together. See, you want to pour out in a full and great way, but you're in a relationship with someone that can't handle that. So you question yourself. Or you get into a relationship and you're like, you might be the 1/4 teaspoon, and you're filled up and you're pouring and you're like pouring, and you feel like I'm just always like working, trying to prove myself as being worthy, because it doesn't matter how much I do. It just seems like oh, I'm pouring in, and then this person takes a sip. And so every time I pour into them and they get what they need, I feel empty because it's just so much hard work trying to pour into them, and it's just too much. See, when we are unequally associated with people, and the Bible calls it being unequally yoked, and there's this you're just out of whack. You're not together. There's the alignment is off. Then you start feeling like I'm not enough. I'm too much. And you start saying these things to yourself that end up limiting your capacity. Right? You end up saying, okay, well, since I see that I'm too much, then here's what I need to do. Let me just put a little drop in there. Let me just be so much less of myself so I can give myself to you and you can be okay. No, that's not how this is supposed to play out. You are not supposed to go through and operate with, here, just put a little drop in here for me so that I can just give a little drop to this person and they feel okay. Even though I've been growing my capacity, I'm going to school, I've been learning, I've been going on adventures, I've been doing all these things in life to expand my capacity. I've launched a business, I've written a book, I've gone here or there, I've made new friends, I've done all these things because I keep wanting to expand my capacity. And this person just wants to stay stuck. And so every time I get around them, I have to like waste half of who I am so I can pour out just a little bit. Can't even go have a conversation with them and be excited, because if I'm too excited with them, they're going to tell me, why are you being too much? There's nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. You just keep pouring into the wrong atmosphere. See, when you pour into a place that's too small, you're going to think yourself to be too much. If you get into an atmosphere that is just way more expansive than where your capacity is, you're going to question whether or not you are enough. You're going to say, I'm not enough. Because no matter what I do, I can't see a difference. So what you want to do is you get to a place that, like, okay, I'm growing, I'm at 1 cup capacity, and I'm in an environment that says, okay, this environment requires 8 cups. So it's a little different when you're filling up 1 cup and you need to fill up 8. That's a little different. It's a little closer. You might be able to work through that. You might be able to say, you know what, I can do that. I have enough drive. I have enough in me to say, okay, I can, with my 1 cup, I can hang in an 8-cup environment. I can pour out there. What this recipe calls for, I can handle that. What it's doing is it's going to stretch me. I'm going to have to work a little bit. I'm going to have to put more into it, but it's not overwhelming to me. This environment does not cause me to question myself. And guess what? That's a part of the clue. If the environment that you are in has you questioning yourself constantly, it's time to check the environment. It's time to check yourself in the environment. Like, wait. Like, okay, maybe right now for me, this is too much. For right now, maybe I haven't grown into this place yet. So maybe, like in sports, I grew up playing baseball. I always wanted to be a professional baseball player. They have these things in baseball called the minor leagues. It's the steps that come before the major leagues, the ones we see on TV. In the minor leagues, that's a place of development. It's a place of growth. And so your relational capacity needs places to grow. This is why we need friends. And this is why doing those things, your heart's desires, your dreams, your goals, going after things, having the adventure, hitting the gym, getting your body in shape, eating healthy, changing your diet, whatever it may be, all of those things, those are areas where you grow and you develop. It begins to expand your capacity. Because you start to see, you know what, I am actually capable of being disciplined and showing up and doing what I say I'm going to do. I'm trustworthy. And you start proving yourself in these other ways. And so by the time you get to this romantic relationship with the one you really want to be with, and this person is the one I want to love you for life, right? All that. You get there with some understanding of how to cook. You get there with some understanding of knowing how to read the room. read the situation, understand the recipe that you need to give, to use the analogy. Like, what does this recipe calls for? Oh, it calls for 2 cups. Calls for this, it calls for that. Maybe I don't need to pour out my whole self. Maybe I don't need to give the whole conversation, right? Like maybe I don't need to tell the whole story right now. Maybe I just need to give a little bit of the story, let my person digest it a little bit. Let me then back off. And then I can share a little bit later. You start understanding how to cook. What does this relationship require in this moment? Am I too much? Am I not enough? That is not an all-time one blanket statement thing. No. Because in any given moment, you might be too much if you don't know how to regulate. If you don't know how to regulate your flow, you might be too much. In another situation, you might not be enough because you might be withholding some of the greatness that is within you. And so what you're giving is not enough. So this is why it's so dangerous. And I oftentimes hear, people say it like, I just don't think that I'm enough. It's very generic. It's too broad. See, we're going to be intentional. We have to be intentional about how we think, intentional about what we say, and how we strategize relationships. This is strategic relationship planning, right? I promise you, I used to see my grandmom in the kitchen, and she like would bake cakes and all kinds of stuff. And she would open her cabinet door, and they're there to this day still. Open her cabinet door, and she would have like recipes on the inside of the cabinet. And so, like, she would know, she could go to her recipes, open up, boom, 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 do what she needs to do. She knew how to cook. She didn't have a microwave. See, this is where, just as a side note, this is why sometimes in our training and our development, we haven't developed fully. In our society, I mean, all of us, we're guilty because we've made such technological advances that we don't really understand process as much as a different generation. Because they had to cook, they had to put together recipes, they had to get all the ingredients together. We are so fortunate, we can just, pop it in the microwave, pop it in the oven. We can call somebody and they can deliver it. It's different when we learn how to cook, when we learn our relationship recipes. Then we start to figure out, oh, we're going through, we're having our relationship, and then it's missing a little something. This relationship is missing a little something. It's missing a little sugar. That thing is a little tart. It tastes a little bitter. My relationship right now is it's tasting a little bitter. What do I need to do? How can I offset this bitterness? Because clearly there's not enough of something, because this bitterness is too great. This isn't supposed to be this bitter. Or that thing, that's way too sweet. That's too much. That's too much sugar. I done sugared it up too much. All right, maybe I need to dial down some of my sugary goodness, right? It can't be all sugary. Sometimes you got to have some substance too, right? Like if your whole relationship is just all sugar, I'm just going to be sweet to you all the time. Come on now. Come on. That's not real. We're going to have some interactions where, no, there's going to be some struggle. It's not all sweet all the time. I do encourage this as a side note. When you have your arguments, argue with pet names, right? Argue with pet names. The ones, there was a man that he said this to me a long time ago when I mean, he didn't really say it to me. He said it on a marriage seminar, and I happened to be like in middle school listening to it. And he was saying to the crowd, argue with pet names. He's like, because it's so difficult. He's like, it's very difficult for you to yell and like to be yelling at somebody and then say like, you're really getting on my nerves, honey boo boo. You're really getting on my nerves, babe. Right? Like he was saying that when you have those pet names and you're constantly using them, sweetheart, You're really bothering me. It kind of takes a little of the sting out of it. You're like, you know what? Maybe I need to dial this thing down. Like it brings us back to a place. And so I just wanted to share that as a random, but learning your relationship recipes and how it works, understanding that in the kitchen, when we're cooking our relationships, when we're developing them, when we are, here we go, when we are making love, like, and I know some people, I probably lost some people. They're like, what? No, making love. I'm not saying having sex. That's a different topic. Having sex is having sex. Making love is the process of creating and making love. Love and sex are not the same thing. Sex can be an expression of of love, but they're not the same. So let's just put sex over on the side for a second and say, when we are making love, it is going to be made by a recipe. And so when we ask love in our situation, we ask it, what recipe does this situation call for? We're frustrated right now. Finances are tight. What recipe do I need to go to so I can understand how much I need to, do I need to pour all of myself? Do I need to maybe dial back a little bit? What do I need to do? What is my ideal place of operating with what I have to give? I know I have a lot of words. Are my words really needed right now? Or should I, you know what? Let me not pour out as many. No, maybe this is more of a time for me to reserve my words. I'm gonna leave the words cup full, and let me go down, and I'm going to take a little scoop. I'll take a little scoop of words. I'm just going to use a few words, and instead, I'm going to use more listening. I'm just going to pour out a lot of listening right now. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pour out a lot of listening. I'm going to be a good listener. That my capacity for listening is, I'm gonna pour that out. That's what my person needs. They need an ear. They need me to listen. They don't necessarily need me to talk. Okay, got this. Oh, but it might be a little bit of both. So I'm gonna pour a little bit of listening, and I'm gonna pour a little bit of conversation, and let me see how that tastes. Let me see how's this working? Okay. Okay, let's do some all right. Okay, I'm gonna pour out a couple more words because that was good. More listening. Oh snap. Let me go to the drawer. We gotta mix it up. Oh yeah. We're gonna mix it up with a little quality time. Quality time is gonna mix it up, little affection, physical touch. Okay, good. I need that. See, like I'm like cooking out of my big mug. Like, what's really going on? I don't really actually cook this way, okay? But you get what I'm saying. It's a recipe. Do you know how to cook? Can you cook your relationship? The relationship, what does it require? The ingredients. This is where life and relationship building and making love becomes so fun. Is it easy? No. But can it be nourishing? Yes. Right? Like, when we learn how to operate this way, when we learn where do I get the ingredients for becoming a better listener? Where do I get that from? Okay, how can I practice being a better listener? How can I develop my listening skills? Those ingredients. What can I do to better more clearly articulate my feelings and what I'm going through and what I might need? What can I do to become a more, a greater communicator? Terrible place to get stuck with words, but I did. But where can I become a better communicator and convey my thoughts more clearly? How can I do that? Maybe I need to take a class. Maybe I need to watch some videos. Maybe I need to practice. Whatever. What about physical touch and quality time and all these things? We start figuring out, look, I can expand. I need to go grocery shopping on my physical touch. How can I What can I do to add physical touch? You know me, I went to massage therapy school and learned how to become a professional toucher because I wanted to serve that to my wife. I'm like, okay, I want to serve this skill to my wife. So this is one of the ingredients that I have. But sometimes the ingredient might just be, I need you just to hold me. I need you. Can you just be close to me and not touch me at all? I just need your presence. Can I be present? Do I have the ingredients in the cupboard for being present without asking for anything, without being distracted, without needing to do anything? Can I just sit and give her what she needs without needing to do anything for myself? Those are ingredients. Those are ways that you start building you start building your resources in the kitchen for making love, making these relationships. And making love is not limited to romance. You get to make love if you want love. You get to make it in any relationship that you have. Love being patient, love being kind, love not being envious, not boasting, not being proud, love not self-seeking, not easily angered, love not disrespecting someone else and keeping records of wrong, love rejoicing with the truth and not delighting in evil, love always hoping, always protecting, always serving, always persevering, love never failing. That's like, you're like, oh yeah. I can have this in every relationship. These are all good things. So tonight, our comfortable couch conversation happened in the kitchen. And hopefully, it's been encouraging to you to really consider how you go about understanding, creating, developing, working on, specializing in the relationship recipes. I posted something the other day. I saw someone who said that if you work on something like 1 hour a day, right? Like 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day, like over a number of years, and you get to like 10,000 hours, you'll become like an expert in that thing by working on it, by practicing it. And I think, how much time do we invest in the kitchen working on our relationship recipes? Like, how much time do we actually invest in working on the recipes and understanding what's working, where we need to make an adjustment, how we as the cook, as the chef, can work through changing the recipe so that we can get a more desirable taste? Why do we want a more desirable taste? Why do we want the aroma of the atmosphere to be so pleasant? And that happens. My grandmother, when she would cook, that house smells good. She's baking things and cooking things. The house smells good. The aroma of what she created smells good. Our relationships have they have an aura. They have an aroma about them. Our attitudes have an aroma. Have you ever been around somebody and told them, like, your attitude stinks? Yeah, well, that's their that's the fragrance that they're giving off. El stinky. Like, but you could have a pleasant aroma. That your attitude, that your life, that your relationship that you create with someone else, your relationship could be so pleasant that when other people are around you, they get brought into this environment where they feel good because they're around you, and they think like, I want that. I want that kind of experience. You two together are so pleasant. There's so much love. It's so rich. Like, we can have delight in our relationships that like just spills out into the atmosphere around us. But it has to be on purpose. So from now on, be very careful about this idea of enough. Right? Am I good enough? Am I not enough? Am I too much? Those are all measure terms that you can use. Those are all, think of it like measurements. Measurements. Like, these are measurements. Am I too much? Ask yourself, for what? Am I not enough? In what application? Like, don't go just having a blanket, throwing a blanket over yourself, telling yourself that you are not enough. You are good enough somewhere, right? You are happy enough. You are, funny enough, or you're not funny enough. You could be, or you might not be. You might not be that funny. You might need to work on your sense of humor. Get it? A sense of humor, like having an understanding of how humor is used. You can work on that. So, I appreciate you. I appreciate you hanging out, and being in the kitchen with me and working on recipes for making love. The recipe of love is something that we can make. But guess what? It has to be worth making. You have to think that you can actually impact your relationship with how you approach it. And you can. So let's get in a place where mentally we're not questioning our capacity. We're seeking to learn it. We're seeking to use it appropriately, right? As needed. Because you showing up in the right, proportions to the situations that you face makes things chef's kiss, makes them great. So let's land the plane, right? I appreciate you all in here. It's been good. Took the couch conversation and brought it into the kitchen. Might have to come in here more often, a little cooking. Or I might have to get somebody else in here and they can lead the cooking session. Get to find a chef or something. We can go deep. All right. Let's pray and let's shut it down. Thank you, Lord, for this day and this opportunity to be with everybody that's been here, those that are here live, those that are part of Team Replay. Thank you for them. Thank you for the blessing of this lesson for all of us. Thank you that we can see life in so many practical applications and do something about it. We can enjoy creating and making love and go about it in a very practical way. And I pray that someone today caught something or heard something that has forever changed them, that they saw something, they're like, you know what, I can use that. And I thank you for that happening. I pray that our relationships in every aspect of our life would be enriched, and that we could see ourselves as having value, and then understanding that our value in part is based upon us understanding how to operate in reference to someone else. Help us to understand what this thing called relationship really is. Help us to really approach it with an understanding that it is not some hard, fast rule and regulation, but it's an understanding that we grow in and we operate in. I pray blessings upon the relationships that exist and those that will be forming. I pray blessings upon the romances that will be sparked and those that will grow and the marriages that will come from even these moments. And I just pray blessings upon them, that their relationships would be an aroma sweet, that their relationships would be even a heavenly atmosphere for those that are around them. And as they are in them, I pray that the relationships would just be heavenly, just so wonderful. And that their joy would be complete, that it would overflow, that someone who once has gone through some tough spots in relationships and maybe had lost hope, I pray that even right now hope would be restored, that they would look to a brighter day and not be dependent upon some person coming into their life, but understanding that it is good and healthy and wonderful to think of what can be. So I pray that someone would have that experience again, that their heart would be fully healed, and that they would operate in their full capacity to love, and that someone, the right someone, would enjoy them, and not only enjoy them, but the right someone would pour back into them as well. And so it would be a wonderful experience for the both of them. Thank you, Lord, in advance for these wonderful things happening. I pray that as we go our separate ways, you protect us and keep us from all harm and danger, and bring us together again at the appointed time. We thank you, counting these things as done. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Cool. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you as always. I'm so glad I was pouring water in here so I had something to drink. So someone asked, do I break horses? I do not break horses. I'll be super technical. The baby horses that, this is a total side note, so I'll shut it down after this, but the young babies that we've had at the farm, we just really approach them with our process is really kind of just to groom them, develop them, work them on up, building relationship all the way so that they're accepting of the saddle and riders and the whole bit. And it's pretty cool, that to see them go through that kind of process. And, just we handle them a lot, like always touching them, and kids are touching them and grooming them and all that kind of stuff. And just kind of building them up. And then they're really accepting. The idea of breaking horses for me was when I first started, I was like, it doesn't feel good. It that didn't feel like me. And I'm sure other people do it, and they do it well, but just even the idea, I just thought about breaking just didn't sound, that's not me. It's not my zone. So I said, I wanted to learn differently. And, but yeah, so we do train horses, and I train horses. So yep, do that. So you all have a wonderful night. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you all so much. Have a fantastic night. Work on your recipes, and know that every day you have a chance to become a better chef, a better cook. And it's a good thing. Enjoy building and making love. Get around people that like to talk about it and like to strategize about it. Right? Keep it in the forefront of your mind. Don't just get caught up in the emotion. Right now, that is so disappointing. I see that a lot on social media. We pick out, there are these hot topics that, people pick out, and they bring them up just to kind of get everybody fired up, because, hot topics get reposted and talked about in comments. You get people angry, they'll post comments. So understand this. I say this to you all. Understand that sometimes people are just wanting to poke you just to get you going, just so that their content can keep on resurfacing. So if they can get you arguing, they can get you commenting. But be careful about what you let inside of your heart, inside of your mind. Be strategic, because you and someone else are going to have your own special environment, your own special relationship. So you can think about that and approach that in a way that's healthy and prosperous and brings life. And you don't want to sow seeds of arguments and contention and all that stuff. So have a wonderful night. I'm B.A. Shepherd, 2 P's A-R-D, reminding you to be a shepherd. The world has enough sheep. I love you much. See ya. Uh-oh.